Humans, the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, we are taking a look at my Crystron deck profile. This is a first place locals deck profile. We got to add some context to this before we actually jump into everything. This is the locals I normally go to every week, or I try to. It's 5 rounds, 5-0 today, undefeated. This is pretty good locals, I will say. So my matchups are yesterday were Blue Eyes Pure, Blue Eyes Invoked, Pure Ryziel, Mitsurugi Ryziel, and Mermail. Really, aside from Malice, I basically played a lot of the biggest decks. I know the Blue Eyes variants aren't like the top level Blue Eyes, but I would call almost any variant of Blue Eyes right now like still Rogue. So yeah, I think it was pretty good. And the other thing too, unwinning on die rolls. I did not win a single die roll, 0 for 5. It's terrible, but we still pulled it out and had some good success. I will say a little bit of context as well. I played Mermail in the last round, lost the die roll, so he wins game 1. I win game 2 going first, and game 3. He says like during his sequence, he like forgot to summon a body or like missed a trigger or something and never got it back. Never got a body that he should have had, and he thought it would have let him like go crazy. He didn't though, and we got the win. Aside from that, so take it with a grain of salt, but like you lose the die to Mermail, like you would almost expect that. So the fact that we got out of there with a win is still solid, and losing every single die roll also, still makes me feel pretty good about the tournament altogether. So we're gonna jump through the list. It's Crystron, so like if you've seen Crystron lists so far, this isn't gonna look too crazy, but we'll talk about the specific things as we go. So starting off, of course, with our I guess Crystron small non-tuners, I guess is what you would call them. 3 copies of Smyger, 1 Thistfern, 1 Praeseortal. This is standard. I will say I've thought about switching Praeseortal for Rosenix. I don't find that the graveyard effect really ends up coming up all too often, and in this variant, I have more discard outlets than most other variants do, so like getting stuff out of the hand is not even necessarily that big of an issue. So like I've thought about switching this for Rosenix because I still want to have the same number of Crystrons in the deck, but I think Rosenix's like graveyard effect just might be slightly better than this one in this type of variant. So I'll keep an eye on it. I might end up switching that going forward, but we'll see. From there, 2 copies of Tristaros and 1 copy of Citri. Citri's a mandatory brick, unfortunately, but you got to play it. We don't love it, but it has to be there. So there's that, and then obviously Tristaros is out of this world crazy. This card's so good. I love it. And then of course finishing up the main deck, Crystron monsters, 3 Sylphefner, 2 Sulfidor. This is pretty standard at this point. Sylphefner is just more flexible. You can just open it with any Crystron card, whereas Sulfidor you have to put something on field already to make this one live. It just requires a little bit more. It's just a little less consistent. So only playing 2. You do need to have 5 total for like, there are lines where like you can end up going through all 5. So you do need at least 5 names, but yeah, I feel like this is the ratio. So 13 total. There, I didn't feel like I missed anything there, aside from maybe Rosenix over Praeseortal. Then we go 3 title. This is not very common in the TCG. I see a lot of Terror Top, Takatomborg engines. I see a little bit of Adventure engine. I've even seen less than 3 of this, but I think if you're going to play it, you play it at 3 because you even want to see 2 of them because that's still 1 card combo. So this card was nasty today, multiple times today. I sent this with like a Smyger or a Sylphefner or something like that. You have 9 names that are really good to send off of it. That basically, as soon as you send for cost, your opponent goes, oh, I should Nash that now. So if you send those or any of these, any of the 5s or Smyger or Thistfern as cost for this, like your opponent immediately goes like, oh shoot, I can't Nash that because he's already going to play right through it. And that's exactly the case. So it's like a 2-card line that beats 1 hand trap, which is really good. So I liked everything there. Yeah, I just thought it was good. I know the OCG plays it out of necessity because they don't have 3 Takatomborg, but honestly, 3 Terror Top, I mean. But honestly, playing that engine when I did before, because I've kind of been messing with different engines, trying to find what's the sweet spot for me. I found that I've drawn Takatomborg just so many times, and that card is the worst brick in the deck. It's worse than Citri, because obviously you can discard Citri off of title, you can send Citri off of Sylphefner, you can normal summon it sometimes with level 5s, and you can play it. Like it's just Takatomborg's just like dead usually. It's terrible. All right, anyway, into the spell and traps. 3 inclusion, 1 burial, 1 prosperity, 1 cluster. This is my lineup. I think everything makes sense here. These 5 are staple. For some people to play prosperity, I think you should. I don't even see why you wouldn't play it in this deck. It just makes perfect sense to me. This deck doesn't draw, so it doesn't conflict with anything. You have just enough extra deck space where you can comfortably banish 1 time off of prosperity, and it's at 1, so you're safe. And the deck needs as much consistency as possible. So I think this card fits the bill in like every way. No complaints. All right, now for the non-engine. Hand traps. 3 Imperm, 3 Ash, 3 Droll, and 3 Veiler here. 12 hand traps. This is fine. I will say Veiler felt like kind of weak. Everything else felt pretty good. Ash and Droll specifically felt pretty good. There were times where Imperms was solid. There's one time it was really clutch. I was able to hit a Dweller with it because I drew it for turn, but into a Dweller against pure Ryzeal, and it helped me play that turn. But yeah, this was solid, honestly. This was just enough. I will say I also don't own Fool Loss at this point in time. I waited long enough, and then when the reprint got announced, I was like, well, I've already waited this long. I might as well just wait for the reprint now. So I've kind of made my bed, so I'm going to lay in it, but we're playing without it for now. But that's something I would look to work in here, potentially over Veiler or Droll, swap Droll to the side or something, get a Fool Loss in the main. Something like that I think could make some good sense. But yeah, this was still solid. I still felt like in the duels where I really wanted it, I drew 2 hand traps, and I felt good about it, or at least like 1 hand trap and a board breaker. Speaking of which, 3 Fenrir, 3 Droplet, finishing out the main deck. I love both of these. I really like Fenrir, not only in this deck, but in this format. I just feel like he does just enough. And maybe it's specifically with Crystron, where like he's just a good pairing at baiting just enough where like the rest of the Crystron engine feels like it can take over from there. And if you bait 1 or 2 things with Fenrir, and then the Crystron cards jump onto the board, like you can play through enough. So, but yeah, I just felt like it's really good. It was really good today. It just gives you good board presence, gives you that bonus body, which can matter. And then Droplet. You kind of need to have Droplet because just in game ones, you just don't want to have to like accept that you just don't have answers to Detonator, Dweller, potentially the Wave High King Caesar, or even oh my gosh, why am I playing so hard? The Fiendsmith Fusion, Desiree. So yeah, this card's just really good, and you have a ton of good discards in the deck. So that's the other thing too that just makes this card really nice, is that you don't neg off of this. All right, into the side deck here, or the X deck, I should say. For Synchro 5s, 1 High Speed Void Hagoida and 1 High Speed Void Chambara. Chambara is for OTKs. Hagoida is for Ryzeal, particularly pure Ryzeal. You can just wait till they put 2 level 4s on field, and then you can use this to turn all their 4s into not 4s, and then they're basically useless bodies at that point. So it's cool. It didn't come up yesterday, but it's fine. I did OTK once with Chambara though, so that was cool. For 7s, 2 Elasceletus. It's the best one. It's the Anarchetype one. It comes up all the time. 2 Dawn Dragster. This card's also really good to negate spells and traps. And then we have Samurai Destroyer. I thought this was good. No complaints. I used both of these. Obviously, these come up like just so often. They're like their bread and butter. This guy didn't come up. He hasn't really come up for me much, but I think part of that is anybody who has Nib in the main tends to side it out versus me, I think I've noticed. And anybody who doesn't has it in the side, they're not siding it in. So it's nice to know it's there. I'd still leave it there just for those scenarios, because like you don't have to pull them out because you have something like Tristaros that as long as you just have Tristaros there as that barrier, you can protect yourself a little bit from losing to Nib. So it's nice. And then for 9s, 1 Corian Gandrax, 1 Vermilion Dragon Mech. Obviously Gandrax is crazy. I think I resolved it twice yesterday. Won both duels. When this card resolves, you win. And then Vermilion Dragon Mech. Cool card. The reason I like this specifically is because it's just kind of nice with Fenrir. So if you open like an awkward hand with like Fenrir plus Tristaros, you can just like special Fenrir, normal summon Tristaros, obviously get another Fenrir off of the first one, and then make this, and then you could just banish Tristaros to pop this, and then summon 2 Crystrons from deck. And like sometimes that's just, in a simplified board state, that can just win you the duel on the spot. So yeah, it's nice. And then sometimes you also just get bonus like utility off the pop. It's really nice. And then adding back like the tuner is really nice as well. For links, I just play Clockwork Knight, SP, and Lizardos. This is weird. Nobody plays Lizardos, really. I find that in a title build, I've done a lot of testing. This didn't come up yesterday, but the idea with this is that if I draw title plus Fenrir, I can like special Fenrir, search a second Fenrir, normal summon like a hand trap, or just like even if I have a brick, well, I guess you wouldn't have a brick because then you could send it off of title, but like let's just say a hand trap, right? You normal a Droll, you normal an Ash. It's a really awkward hand. You can link those two into Lizardos. Lizardos banish itself to draw one. Now you've cleared your board, so you can special summon the second Fenrir, and it gives you a shotgun draw to hopefully draw an access to a water where you can then pitch off title and get things going. But at the same time, you're just talking about a scenario where you're turning a hand trap and a Fenrir into a Fenrir plus a draw. So it's like you don't even have to go neg to do it, but it gives you the chance, the Hail Mary chance at completely unlocking the hand and going ham. So I like the idea on that. Didn't come up though, but the idea is still fun. And then SP, just spot removal, Clockwork Knight for Smiger lines. Yep, makes sense. And then lastly, we have our Xyz, one Nova, one Infinity, one Typhon. These were all good. Obviously, we make these all the time, just bread and butter combos. And then Typhon. Typhon's so clutch in this deck. We are not afraid to just set up cluster with a hand trap and then just ride that out by making this against like Ryziel early and then going like, bounce the detonator, beat over the Dweller or something, and go from there. But it works. This card came up, I think, 2 or 3 times, and I think almost every time I summoned it, I won. Card's actually really good in this deck. And then for the side deck, of course, finishing out here, starting off with the hand traps, 3 Nib, 3 Lancia, 2 Phantasme. Nib I liked, was really good against Mitsurugi Ryziel. Game 3, I drew this plus Ash, and I was able to Ash the Nib, and he passed basically after that. That was really good. Didn't side Lancia at all because I didn't play Malice or the Mirror, so this card just didn't come in at all. And then Phantasme, I sided this in versus both of the Blue Eyes players, but just didn't draw it, so it is what it is. While I don't have Fool Loss, I still like the idea of like some of these decks that like digging for Nib or something, you know what I mean? Something like a higher impact card could just be really good, or a board breaker in certain scenarios, but just didn't draw it in the matchups I sided it in for. For board breakers, 2 Ultimate Slayer, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. Sided this in a couple times. This is just a clean, simple, stupid out against Ryziel for Detonator, like just clear Detonator. Or if they for some reason don't shotgun Dweller in draw or standby, you can still just have a clean out to it. So either way, really cool. And then Harpy's Feather Duster as well came up. I didn't draw this, but I sided it in a couple times. This card I drew twice against both Blue Eyes players. It was fine. It's not like it was crazy. I hit, I think, 2 back row one time, and got one of them he chained D barrier, so he locked me out of Synchros. It was whatever. And then the other one I just hit like 1 back row in a grind game, and it was whatever. It was good that I drew it, and it was solid. I wouldn't complain about it, but didn't draw it in like crazy situations where my opponent had like 2 set Solemn Strikes, and it clutched me the game completely on its own. And then finishing up here for your going first stuff, 1 Called by the Grave and 3 Strike. Drew Strike twice, I think. I think I won those duels, so that was good. No complaints about Strike. And then Called by the Grave did not draw, but I like having it in there, right? Whether I'm playing as a deck that I think like might side Shifter in, obviously Lancia's coming in, right? So stops to that are bonus. And but yeah, that was really solid. So there you go. There's the deck profile. Felt good about it, man. Like losing every die roll, going undefeated. Not only just undefeated, but I was 10-2 in games, just raw games, 10-2, which still feels really good. It was a really good time. I had a good time, and I feel like I've just been getting slowly better with Crystron, more comfortable with it, and I feel like I'm feeling pretty good with it. I don't usually stick with the deck long enough to get like as comfortable as I am with this right now, and I feel good with it. So I want to show it off for you guys after the win yesterday. So let me know your thoughts down below on any questions on this. I'll definitely be responding to comments on here if you have any questions, if you're curious about Crystrons, as well as any suggestions, anything that you think that, I have some extra space. Like I said, Hagoida doesn't come up really. And I would also probably say Lizardos doesn't need to be there, so I have like some slots there, you know, main deck non-engine slots, whatever. I'd be curious to hear what everybody's recommendations would be or questions. So I'll definitely be in the comments, so hit me up there. Other than that, I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thanks for the support. I'll see you guys in the next video, probably a news video. We'll see, but stay tuned. Subscribe for more. I'll see you then. Peace.